Joe Girardi did not last 3 full seasons as the Phillies manager. Breaking news, the team announcing this morning that he's been fired. Bench coach Rob Thompson will take over on an interim basis. Philly has lost 12 times in the last 15 games. This is their worst start since 2017. Goodness gracious. DraftKings contributor Garion, Thorne, RotoWire's Erik, Halterman are here. Garion, you can't be that surprised with this move, right?
I mean, I guess not. Something needed to change in Philly. I guess you can look at this as sort of that old school mentality of, let's change the clubhouse dynamic. Let's light a fire under the boys. But honestly, I don't really know how much a manager even does in a baseball dugout in 2022. If we're just going to try arbitrary things like let's have all the Phillies relievers legally change their name so that it seems like there are different options in the bullpen, because that's probably the bigger issue than Joe Girardi being the manager or not being the manager of this team. Again, I think something had to happen.
Yeah.
Like, if you just look at a team from a PR perspective, like this might appease some fans for a little bit. Like, okay, they tried something, they're doing something, but we can go to a Phillies fan and ask him how he feels.
Yeah, Erik, that's not totally his fault that he was handed like a flawed roster, like in regards to the defensive bullpen, but it's not a good thing, right? When players are openly discussing like a team's low energy here.
Yeah, I would say as a Phillies fan, I'm certainly appeased. You could say it's not his fault, but this is also supposed to be a better team than the Phillies have had the past several years, and it was worse. It's not like it was a definite playoff contender, but the team took no steps forward in his 3 years, and there's really no reason to expect they ever would. What is Girardi's resume other than, hey, he won a title with a team that should have won a title 13 years ago? I was unhappy when he came in. I was actually a Gabe Kapler guy. I don't think there were many of us left in the Phillies fandom at that point, but seeing him immediately be successful as soon as he leaves and seeing Girardi do no better, even as the roster got better, was pretty disappointing. So I'd love to see some guy I've never heard of in the Rays organization take over. I think that's what I'd be hoping for here.
That seems to be the style around baseball. But the Phillies have just added way too many star-level talents to find themselves on the outside looking in on another postseason here. But guys, let's move forward. Let's cover the bases. Let's look ahead to tonight. Erik, first base, favorite pitcher in DFS this evening. Who's your guy?
Yeah, it's a pretty strong slate. You've got 3 guys over 10,000, Garrett Cole, Corbin Burns, and Joe Musgrove. I'd be really happy with any of them. Very little to separate them. And I think I'd like to pair one of them with Nathan Eovaldi, who at 8,000 really easily could be a lot closer to those other guys. 3.77 ERA on the season. And he's an interesting one if you look at his ERA estimators. By FIP, he should be all the way up at 5.24, but by XFIP and SIERA, he's in the low 3s. And that's really because of an anomalous home run per fly ball rate. The league average in that mark is about 11%, and his career average is about 12%. This season, he's up just shy of 26%, and that's not supposed to be a number that pitchers have all that much control over. Generally, they have control over whether they keep the ball on the ground or not. But if they give up a long fly ball and it goes just over the fence versus dying at the warning track, it's not thought to be something they have a major amount of control over. So to see him be, so anomalous, more than double the league average there, really suggests that things are going to come down. Couldn't ask for a better matchup for him either. Facing the A's, one of the weakest lineups in the league at the Oakland Coliseum, which is the most pitcher-friendly park in terms of runs, second most pitcher-friendly in terms of homers. I look at that and see a guy who I'd easily pay probably $9,500 for, and he's only 8,000 today.
Garion, dozen games on the main slate. Who is your favorite pitcher in DFS?
We got to have stupider people on here because we're always going to come up with the same answers.
Wow.
Look, I think Garrett Cole, if we're talking about like guys over 9K, probably the number one option. I think Shane McClanahan might go a little bit undervalued. I think at this point everyone knows what Shane McClanahan is, but some people might still think about a left-handed pitcher going up against the White Sox and fear that a little bit, even though like Tim Anderson's not playing, Eloy Jimenez obviously not available either. But yeah, of all these, just too cheap. I don't really understand this price point. I don't get why he's just 8K. I guess it's a product of the slate being as strong as it is, but as Erik mentioned, aside from some quirky home run to fly ball ratio stuff, Eovaldi's been really good this season. He's got a 25% strikeout rate. He's barely walking anybody. That's kind of just the book on him at this point. And Oakland is like a special kind of bad against right-handed pitching in particular. They come into this game ranking dead last in baseball in slugging percentage, OPS, WOBA, and WRC plus against right-handed pitchers. They just can't hit righties, and Evaldi's a really good right-handed pitcher, so he's just way underpriced, and I think you have to attack that tonight.
Well, by the way, producer Drew says if you want stupider people on here talking baseball, friendly reminder, Steve Buchanan joins us every Tuesday here on The Sweat. Garion, second base, best infielder on DraftKings tonight.
Speaking of guys who are questionably priced, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., 4,300? I mean, I know he's been not quite 2021 Vladdy this season, but damn. I don't remember seeing him this cheap in a really long time. And this is, oh my God, I can't win with this fire alarm.
What's going, are you okay?
I'm fine, yes. Just, this got me yesterday too.
All right, I didn't know if you had bagel bites in the oven or something.
I mean, I wish.
Me too.
So yeah, Vladdy, been struggling so far this season by his own standards, but does have 5 extra base hits in his last 7 games. It seems like things are starting to turn around for him a little bit. And also with Sonny Gray going on the IL yesterday, Chichi Gonzalez is starting this game for the Twins. I know some of these numbers are like Coors affected, so you can't just say this is going to continue to happen. But if you look at his numbers last season against right-handed batters, he was just absolutely destroyed. Batting average well above 300, slugging percentage well above 600. And this Jays lineup is just completely made up of powerful right-handed hitters. I think the Jays are going to score a lot of runs tonight, and Vlad's probably in the middle of it.
Erik, who's your top DFS infielder tonight?
Well, my top guy is Vladimir Guerrero Jr., so I guess I'll go talk about somebody else. But man, he's the 73rd most expensive hitter on the slate, which doesn't even have all the teams. There's, I think, 6 teams missing from the slate. There's no way he's the 73rd best hitter in the league. Even in a down season, he's still hitting the ball incredibly hard. He's hitting it on the ground a little bit too much. But despite that, he still has a 125 WRC plus in a down year. So pretty clear top guy. He could easily be 1,000 more. If you want different names for the sake of variety, a couple matchups where I might be looking to stack some expensive guys. Atlanta against Chad Kuhl in Coors Field. I think you can look at Ronald Acuna. You can look at Austin Riley as expensive options. And Houston against Brady Singer, who's actually been good in a very small sample, but over his career, he's pretty forgettable in general, I would say. Yordan Alvarez, Kyle Tucker would get the platoon advantage against him. Even Jose Altuve as another expensive option there. So there's a couple lineups that I think look like good stacking ground if you're not just going to take the easy way and just try to use Vlad in as many spots as possible.
All right, Erik, favorite outfielder as we make our way to third base here.
Well, let's see if we can get the first one of the show where we pick different guys.
Okay.
Kyle Schwarber.
All right.
Judging by Garion's reaction, okay, we might actually talk about 2 different players in this section, so that's exciting. He hasn't had a great season. With 4,700, he's priced not quite at the top tier, but you do need a lot out of him, and I think you're going to get a lot here. He has 2 hits. Too much, 31.4% strikeout rate, although strikeouts are something that comes with his game. His first career, he's at 28.1%, so he's not as if he's taken a major step back there, and he's actually taken a step forward in his barrel rate, which was always good, but this year it's just shy of 18%, sitting in the 98th percentile. He'll get the platoon advantage in Philadelphia against Chase Silseth, who was an 11th round pick last year, has only made 10 career professional starts, 3 of those in the majors, including 2 against the A's. Has a pretty good ERA, but some pretty mediocre ERA estimators. Not getting strikeouts at all, just a 16.4% strikeout rate. So for a guy like Schwarber who struggles in that area, I think that's an encouraging sign. I like the matchup here, and I like his very recent run. I think he's going to pull out of a poor start to the season and be a guy who deserves to be priced in this range.
All right, Gary, and when you copy a friend's homework here, you're supposed to change it up a little bit so it doesn't look like you copied. Have at it.
Yeah, you only change it slightly, though. So I'm going to stick with the same game, just pick a different team.
Oh, great.
Look, Zach Eflin's actually been really good so far this season, especially by the advanced statistics. But if there's one thing that we have learned across like a 6 or 7 year sample with Eflin, he really struggles with left-handed bats, and that's happening again this season. It's been the root of any of the struggles that he has had, despite the fact they have been fewer and far between in 2022. But Shohei Ohtani, I know we're dealing with some weird stuff with him pitching the last couple times he's taken the mound, but he does seem like he's starting to round into form when it comes to his offense. And he, like Vladimir Guerrero Jr., is someone, when you stare at their expected statistics, still so much better than the actual production we've gotten so far this season. But in the month of May, Ohtani, 260 isolated power, 146 WRC plus. I think he's, like I said, coming out of this. I think he's starting to become the Shohei Ohtani at the plate that we saw last season. And if I can get a premier left-handed bat going up against Zach Eflin, more often than not, I'm going to take that chance.
All right, Gary, and last one here. Bring us home. DFS value play.
Going to go back to that Blue Jays lineup, someone who might go a little overlooked in this game, Santiago Espinal, who has hit very, very well at Rogers Center so far this season. He's got a 128 WRC plus, an OPS up above 800. And depending on whether or not George Springer plays in this game, he's missed the last 2 contests due to an illness. Espinal's either going to hit leadoff, and even if Springer's back, he might still be slotted into the number 2 spot in the Jays lineup. He started hitting second. They've won 8 consecutive games. Managers tend to be a little superstitious, so I would imagine Espinal remains in the top third of the Jays lineup regardless of who's playing tonight. And considering that they have the highest implied team total of any non-Coors team on this slate, I think you want to stick as many bats in there as you can. And if one of them's $3,600, that's even better.
Erik, who's a good value play tonight?
I was pretty worried we'd be on the same guy again because I am going with a cheap guy on the Jays, but I'll go with Lourdes Gurriel at 2,800. He is also having a down year, but there's reasons to believe he's picking things up lately. In his last 8 games, he has a 170 WRC plus, but what I really like is 7 walks against just 4 strikeouts. Shows me he's at least seeing the ball far better. On the season, a 655 OPS isn't very good, but he does have a career best strikeout rate of 17.6%. He's hitting the ball still fairly hard in the 77th percentile, not generating a ton of barrels, but that seems like that means a few too hard of his hits are going on the ground, or a few too many of his hard hits are staying on the ground. It doesn't look like somebody who's very off to me, and it's somebody who's had plenty of success in the past. So to see him sub 3,000 against Chichi Gonzalez, who we've hit on a couple times, I think career 5.64 ERA. Yes, a lot of that was at Coors, but that doesn't look good anywhere. It doesn't strike out anybody. 13.4% strikeout rate for his career, and wasn't even all that much in the minors this season. So give me a guy who's had success in the past, doesn't look all that bad this season, and costs less than 3,000.